different plants, different voices, and different ways of having conversations. It's time to get personal with plant medicine. Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana, and today I am joined once again by Frankie Greenthumbs. How are you doing today, Frankie?
I am doing great. Very excited to be here. Like I always say, I love rambling about, love talking about the plant.
Well, I don't think you're rambling. I learned a lot last time, and I know I'm going to learn a lot this time because we're talking about clones today. So, really quick, before we even start, what are clones? Because I don't think that a lot of people understand what they are.
So, it's very overcomplicated.
Yeah, give us the simple, kindergarten version.
Simple version is exactly what it sounds like. If you clone a person, right? You've seen Terminator?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I mean, we're not there yet. Well, we probably are. Let's be honest.
You've seen Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
When he's cloned? Same exact thing.
Who cloned their dog? Was it Bette Midler? Somebody like that cloned their dog recently. Their pet dog.
I know they cloned like a lamb or a goat a while ago.
Yeah.
But,
so, I mean, it's coming.
Yeah.
But right now, we're just talking about plants.
Plants are
Cannabis
a lot easier.
is specific.
Yes. less controversial. But same exact idea. It is the exact genetic copy of the plant you took it from. So that's the short version. We'll obviously dive more into it throughout this episode. But so if you have a plant that you really, really like or is growing really well and you want to make sure that you can recreate that plant, you would clone it. And excited to kind of dive into it.
So I know I already kind of told, when I went to visit your store, I said, it's kind of like propagation, right? Because that's how I can put it in my brain as somebody that has not grown cannabis yet, but grows other plants and other herbs. So it's kind of like a propagation in a sense,
exactly.
Right? Because you want to keep growing that one plant, right?
Exactly.
So how did you even begin to get into the clones? What inspired you to specialize in clones?
So the big thing, kind of like with anything when you grow, everyone starts growing and says, I want to smoke for free, right? And then that turns into, after your first grow, I want to grow better. And then after that, I want to grow more. And then, man, that was really good and I'm getting really good. Mm-hmm. What's the next step? You know what I mean? It's like any hobby or interest. Mm-hmm. You don't start at step 10, right? You start at step 1 and it kind of just grows into, no pun intended, grows and develops into that.
Well, not to cut you off, but what if you're like me? I'm very neurospicy. I tend to sometimes want to go to step 10 before I go to step 1.
So you can always, if that's something you're more interested in, you can learn that in a matter of a month. You know what I mean? It's less of a skill thing and more of just something, once you learn, you get some practice with, and it's like riding a bike. You get the basics and learn how the plant works, and you learn that cloning is a super simple process.
All right, let's talk about it in propagation. Let's talk about it in that perspective. So it's not as simple as cutting off the bud and then growing it in another pot, is it?
Not quite.
Right.
So with cloning, you'd want to do this before the plant starts flowering or budding. Ideally,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's a few phases of a plant's growth. You have a seedling phase, which is the first 7 to 21 days.
Okay.
Where it's rooting, getting that tap root, getting its base, and starting to grow. Then you have a veg stage, which is where it's growing shoots and branches, but no buds, no flowers, nothing like that yet.
Okay.
That is the phase when you would want to clone the plant. It's more mature. It's going to grow roots a little bit quicker. And it's going to make your whole job easier. The reason we don't want to clone a flowering plants are much more will mold a lot easier. Mold is terrible for a plant. It'll kill your plant. The reason it molds is when you clone a plant, you need higher humidity levels.
Okay.
And if you have a bud that's a flower, that will mold. If there's no buds on it yet, prevents mold, roots quicker, because that's the hormones that are going through the plant during the veg stage. It's rooting more, it's growing more shoots and branches. which makes cloning easier.
Okay. So you just talked about mold. What are some of the things that you experienced early on in your journey that like made you want to give up on the whole thing? Well, because you're talking about mold, like that almost threw me off from ever having any more plants when I first got mine. I was like, oh no, because you just go through the whole thing. Like you said, 7 to 21 days. It's a long time. Especially if you're impatient like me. And then to have it just mold, it would be like so heartbreaking. Mold's always killing everything. My kombucha too. Like I had to throw out a whole thing of kombucha one time. But anyway, so.
The biggest things that kind of make you want to quit, especially when it's growing, are kind of just new grower mistakes, right? We're always afraid to invest a lot of money in something we're unsure of, right? It's a lot easier to spend $30 at a dispensary than it is to spend $300 for your grow setup and you don't know how it's going to work. So a lot of new growers go really cheap. First big mistake, cheap lights, cheap soil. I'm going to get Miracle Grow, Home Depot setup, whatever. That's the first big mistake everyone makes. I made the same thing, right? My first setup was about $35, $40, and I ended up with about $30, $40 worth of weed. You know what I mean? And that's the first thing that makes most people quit. After that, you make the investment. You still don't get the results you want the second time. It almost never works out that way. Okay. Which is one of my biggest things with my business. I tell people, hey, you get to skip that learning curve. You're not going to want to quit 12 months in after you've made this investment and spent this money and been excited for the last 12 months. Because that's a disheartening feeling, you know what I mean? And then that's how you get the reputation of homegrown sucks and that's too difficult and I don't have the money for it or time for it or what. You do. You just haven't had that experience in your back pocket.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I love that so much because especially right now it's needed, I think, more than ever. I feel like every time I go on social media, I'm in a lot of the cannabis spaces online and all I keep seeing is how terrible the quality is at the dispensaries, right? I've said it so many times. I feel like buying flower at the dispensary, at least in Maryland, but I'm hearing it's like the whole tri-state area, a lot of New England. It feels like I'm literally just burning money. Like, just, I might as well take what I just spent and set it on fire. And it could be a good thing if it was good, right? Because you're like, that metaphor kind of works, but in this sense, it doesn't because it's so crumbly and dry and like we shouldn't be hearing it clanging around in the container before we take it out, right? We should not hear the buds clanging around and there shouldn't be so many stems, right? I'm going on, I talk about rambling, but I feel like that's what really inspires people. Like when they're like, I am wasting so much money, you know? And so it's like, if you think about it in that way, investing in good products and having someone like you come into the picture, it just makes logical sense, Yeah,
absolutely. The big thing with that is the quality that you get comes down to a few things. One, you don't get to try and smoke the buds before you purchase them at a dispensary. Right. So what do consumers have to work with? We have the picture online. We have the name, which always sounds cool, but the reality is Chocolope does not taste like a chocolate cantaloupe. It tastes like weed, and that's what they named it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same with lemon cherry gelato. Doesn't taste like ice cream. It tastes like weed with those flavors in reality. You know what I mean? So we have the name, the picture, and then the little sticker with the THC percentage. None of that really tells you how it smokes or how it's going to react to you and how you like it. So saying that, commercially grown cannabis is all, I hate to say it this way, but made for bag appeal. They know what's going to sell. So how does it smoke? Doesn't really matter because you've already spent the money. Right? They don't need you to be a consistent customer. They need you to fall for that trick once a week.
And I fall for it, I almost fell for it yesterday because I saw one that was like lilac. I can't remember the second part. It was like, I want to say lilac haze. I couldn't find it again. Mm-hmm. Luckily, it wasn't in stock when I went to the dispensary. Just got my RSO. But, like lilac, oh, that sounds good because I bet it's like a good combination. And, but that's it. That's it's all sales. It's like a sales tactic to make you not really think about having control. Yeah. And it's like, as someone who grows herbs at home, like I haven't started with cannabis yet, but like, even just growing lemon balm and making lemon balm cookies, whole other world, It's like growing your own basil and making that, it does taste so different. It's such a different experience.
Well, and you hear people talk about it all the time, right? Because not everyone's growing cannabis, but there's a ton of people online that have grown their own vegetables, right? Or raised their own chickens or livestock or whatever. And they'll be firsthand will tell you, even eggs, right? If you have chickens that lay eggs, the yolk is more yellow, they taste better, they're more filling. Gosh. That's like all those things.
I'm like hunting those down now. I mean, obviously we have like an egg crisis, but now that I've tried farm fresh eggs, I can't go back. I just can't. I have to have, or at least even the cage free compared to it's a big difference. So it's like, it sounds like you're overblowing it, but it's the reality. And I think it's just that people are afraid. And so clones kind of give them like a way in, right? Like it makes it a little less scary. And you have them for sale at your grow shop. What do you call it? A grow shop?
Yeah. And this is actually
trying to describe it to people like it's a grow shop.
This time of year is one of the best times to get clones, and if you're curious about getting started, it's one of the cheapest times to do so also.
Why?
You don't necessarily need an indoor setup.
Okay.
Right? If you have a private yard or a space where neighbors or people can't see from the street.
No clones are coming back.
But, so, clones are, if you're going to experiment...
Not clones. No, what was I thinking? Drones. No drones.
Yeah. New growers are always hesitant because we don't want to start a seed and end up with a male.
Right.
Or make a mistake or be unsure. Clones are guaranteed results. Guaranteed female. Easy. We already know it's going to grow well. Right? Something I do with all my clones. I just made a post yesterday. You can mess everything up possible with these clones, and they are going to grow. You can stress them out. You can forget to water. They can get too hot, too cold, too humid, too dry. Whatever it is, they're going to grow great, and you're going to get awesome results. So the time to put clones outside this year is mid-April, April 15th-ish. We'll talk about it later, but I get a big event, April 19th, where you can get free clones or 4 clones for like half price. There's all kinds of deals and stuff like that going on. Point is, if you're curious about getting started, you get a clone and you get a bag of dirt and you're pretty much set. So it's an awesome time to try and learn, try and experiment, grow something from home. You know what I mean? And start with a clone.
So what if they don't have the backyard set up like me? Like, what's the difference with the whole indoor setup when you're starting off with clones? Because we talked about it in the last episode, but it's usually like a whole thing if you're starting from scratch, right?
Yeah. So clones, you're essentially skipping the first 3 to 5 weeks of a plant's life cycle.
Okay.
It is one of the biggest advantages. And that's one of the things I teach when someone starts training. I tell them, hey, your first grow is going to take about 5 months.
Okay.
Right? We teach how to start from seed and how to tell the difference between male and female plants and things like that. And one of the other things we do is I teach people how to clone so we can reproduce the best 1 or 2 plants that are in that grow. After that first 5-month grow, because we've cut clones around month 3, they've rooted, they've been growing for 2 months already. While your original plants are finishing up, when they're done, you take your clones over, and now your grows are down to 3 months. Okay. So instead of 2 harvests per year, you can get 4 harvests per year. And every one gets exponentially better because you're taking your favorite plant from each grow and reproducing that.
Okay, this might be a little bit off the cuff here, and forgive me if it sounds like a dumb question, but what about if you have 2 clones that are 2 different strains or cultivars, right? and you want to put them together, can you do like a hybrid clone?
So you can graft plants together. That's more of like a Frankenstein science experiment, and it's very difficult to do.
Yeah,
definitely don't recommend you growers try it out. As far as crossing those two and making a new strain, it'd be much easier to do with a male and a female version of those plants instead of clones. So if you want to make a new strain, you
basically have to have a male and female together?
Correct.
Wow, that's weird.
Compare, as much as people want to disassociate themselves from other animals and people, because we're people, we're bigger, we're better, we're smarter, right? We're not a stupid plant. We are exactly like a plant.
Yeah.
Right? So how do people reproduce?
Procreate, right?
Aside from the cloning thing, if you could cut your finger off, put it in dirt, and pull a new you out in like 2 weeks, aside from that, right? Male, female, seeds, pollen, produce a new baby strain. Same exact thing, right? We eat, we sleep, we do all these things exactly the same. And the more you learn about the plant, the more you realize, holy cow.
Get overstimulated by noises. I've noticed that like my money tree, like if I vacuum near it, it shakes. It's the same thing with my Dracaena tree. Yeah. It's like, get away from me with that noise.
So there's a lot of things that sound crazy or almost like hippie lore when it comes to plants, like different sound waves and different vibrations and different music. I run copper, actually outdoors, I run copper wire about a foot down into the ground and swirl it through my fabric pots and up through the plant, right? And that sounds crazy. It sounds like some sort of, I don't know, tinfoil hat idea, you know what I mean? But what happens is the ground has an electric charge, right? You've heard of grounding yourself. The reason if you walk barefoot on the grass is that electric charge, it gives you energy. It does things like that. So when you take that electric charge through the ground, up through the soil of your plants, it carries that from the earth through your pot that's elevated above the soil. I did it with half my plants this year, and the other half I didn't, just to see if it worked, right? Because I'm like, there's no way. They were twice the size.
Wow.
By the end of the year. And
I believe it because in our other podcast, Your Highness, in the very first or second season, early on, I interviewed someone who actually makes music from cannabis plants.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was almost unheard of at the time. And now people are doing it a lot more frequently. I'm seeing it because of the frequencies. And I mean, it was a lot of science. I'm not even going to pretend. But it was really cool. I mean, I was skeptical at first, obviously, but then I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. And it's really cool. And she had tracks and she showed, she had an advanced degree in science, in science.
And it's amazing with the technology we have, the amount of research we're able to do with things like that to find out how it really impacts things. And again, that's one of the most fun things about cannabis is once you get good at it, you can start to test and try different things just for the heck of it. And when you see the difference, it's like, wow, you never stop getting better. Every grow is your next grow is your best grow. Every time.
Oh, that's so cool. I love to hear that, to bring it back to kombucha again, because I'm always bringing it back to kombucha. But that's how it was with kombucha, because at first I was like, I don't know about this. And I did have some mess ups in the beginning, but now it's it's like clockwork,
Yeah.
It's like I have so many scobies, I don't even know what to do with them. I don't know if that's scobies aren't clones, but I guess they could kind of be if you think about it, because it's a clone of the mother SCOBY, right? So
it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, okay.
And, I tell people that all the time. We have that not FOMO, but that keeping up with the Joneses mentality, right? We see someone on Instagram that's growing weed that looks out of this world, right? And we're like, man, I'm going to grow that. And our first grow, we don't get it. We're like, what have I done wrong? But you don't realize all the things you've done right. You grew a plant inside with no sunlight, no natural water, no natural CO2, nothing natural. You were able to produce that, whether it was A1 or grade F Taco Bell meat quality. You were able to grow a plant. Mm-hmm. That's incredible in itself, right? Let's take that step one and get to step two. Because the reality is you've never learned anything useful in your life your first try. Right? Yeah. Now, it's unfortunate growing a plant doesn't take a week, because if we could grow a full plant in a week, suddenly we're learning a lot more, a lot quicker, right? But when it takes 5 months, man, I just wasted 5 months. But what did we learn, right? You learn that we can't skip watering. You learn that we got to control the temperature. You learn that we got to control the humidity. And you also learn that there's very easy ways to do this, right? So I tell everyone, your job has a 2-week training period, right? And you still don't know it when you get started. You're so confused when you get started.
Sometimes years into it.
Exactly. Right? So if you take that same approach that your next grow is your best grow, because everyone, even myself, right? I've been growing 11 years. There's guys I work with that have been growing 30, 40 years since before I was born. Mm-hmm. And man, I know what I'm doing different next time. And it's every single person that grows. That's why, smoking weed's not addictive, but growing it is.
So let's talk about, you just said the next grow is the best grow. So let's talk about some of the best experiences you've had, like both helping people learn about clones and your own personal experience with it.
So helping people learn about clones, my favorite thing about it is, it just sounds almost like an unfathomable,
like it couldn't happen.
Yes, type of thing before it happens. And then when you learn it and get the concept, and there's always a point where it clicks for someone when they have 2 or 3 clones of a plant we cut, and they're looking at their almost done plants, and they're like, man, this one is so much better. I wish we could grow this one again. And they look over, and I'm like, we can. And that's the moment where it's like, this is why we cut clone. There's always, and everything you teach with people, once it clicks, that's my favorite part about teaching, especially with cloning. Just teaching in general, right? There's always that period of doubt. We all have that thing where that buyer's remorse at first, right? We spend money, we're unsure. That first week or first month, we're excited. We don't know what to expect. And that first month, we're excited and we're excited and we're excited. And, the plant's a foot to 18 inches tall. And we're like, all right, this is cool. And then month 2, we're like, all right, why don't I have weed yet? And then month 3, it's like, Frank, what is going on? And we start flowering your plants. And we start seeing buds. And you're ready to cut it down, and it's getting stinky, and it's getting frosty, and it's like, just wait and be patient. Frank, what the heck? Month 4 comes. It's almost done. Just be patient. I want to smoke. I know. I know. Just relax. Or it doesn't smell like za, or it doesn't smell like despair. That's okay. Just wait it out.
Does that happen sometimes? It doesn't smell?
Yeah, there's sometimes, there's some strains that smell way different than others. There's some that get most of their funk after it's dried and cured. There's some that don't get a whole lot of smell until the very last week.
Wow.
So people are seeing these things, and there's some concern, right? There's some that smell before
that's completely different than what I thought. Like, that's a whole new world.
Well, so a perfect example, right? I train a guy who started one of our seeds as the AK-47 cross with Tropical Runs. Now, Tropical Runs is a very...
AK-47. Is Tropical Runs, you said?
Yes. So the Tropical Runs it's like candy champagne. It's almost bubbly.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it just made me think about when I went to Maine last time. Not to cut you off.
You're fine.
I was smoking my sister-in-law, and she said, this is Runts. And I went, okay, like, or what did she say? It was Nerds. That's what it
Nerds.
was. And so I went to the dispensary to get it. And I think she even said it was Runts or Nerds, but I heard Nerds. And so I went to the dispensary the next day, and I was like, I don't know, it's like a Nerds strain. Do you have a Nerds strain? And he comes out with a whole Nerds rope.
That's hilarious.
But he was like selling it to me hardcore, so I was like, oh, I'll just get the Nerds rope.
I'll get the Nerds rope, I'll get the rock, just fill up the cart.
Yeah, right. But I wound up not getting this strain.
So what did you bring me? Everything but Runs. The tropical Runs, candy champagne. The AK-47 is more of an old school strain.
Okay, yeah.
So think of more of a skunky, more of a. It doesn't have that kind of new smell that a lot of the dispensary stuff has. It has kind of that 90s, 2000s. Like we hit a skunk in the road and it's stuck on the car and we can't get away from it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes. I haven't smelled that in a while from the dispensary.
So this strain, the seed he started with, has a lot more of that old school smell, right? And he cut it down. He's like, Frank, man, this doesn't have a lot of smell. And I dried it and I took some off to smoke it. He's like, I was worried. And I took like 3 or 4 hits of this, and I had to put it down because it threw me into the couch and said, "Shut up." Apologize to Frank. Write him a thank you letter. Not really, but and that's what a lot of people. Again, we go back to that bag appeal, where all we have to base it on is the smell and taste. And we lose a lot of that.
And we don't even get to smell it.
Exactly.
That's the messed up part. I mean, some dispensaries, just quick disclaimer, in certain states do allow that.
Yeah.
Very small amount of states that allow that. But in Maryland, no.
Yeah,
it's not. You don't even get to look at it before you buy it.
Well, and that's enough. So before it was medicinal in Maryland, before it was rec in Maryland, there was a dispensary in Catonsville that I used to go to all the time. And they had deli style where they had the jars and they would take it off and you could smell it and look at it and stuff like that. And they would pick it out and weigh it out in front of you.
Wow.
But when they made it recreational, they got rid of that in Maryland. They said, you're not allowed to do that anymore. Everything has to be prepackaged, weighed out, all these other things. Those days were fun. You know what I mean?
I never experienced that in Maryland. Like, I don't know. I probably went to the wrong dispensary, but I've never had that experience. I feel like that is a totally different thing because then you're like, all right, I feel better about what I'm about to spend my money on, you know?
Well, and it was unique and it was fun and it made the experience like what we all had imagined when they said it was going to be, you know what I mean? Like what you see on the documentaries, like this is what it's going to be like. And that's what it was like, you know what I mean?
I know, people who have like never been in a dispensary before, they're so shocked when they go in. It's like, it's so clinical. It's so like,
It's always funny to me.
It's like going to Target now, basically, but like Target and a pharmacy combined. I don't know. It's not like that at all.
It's always funny to me, someone's first time in a dispensary, and they're almost looking over their shoulder, like the police follow. I was actually leaving a dispensary. This was a while back, but I was leaving a dispensary one time, and me and like 4 people walked out all at the same time, and there was police in the parking lot for something that happened. It was like it's a shopping center, right? Saw a store next door. And they're like, oh no, why are the police here? I'm like, guys, someone's selling weed inside. And they all laughed. And I was like, whatever. But
they were like, yeah, funny. I'm gonna get in my car now.
It's funny. Someone's first. They'll whisper, "Hey, can I get it? What do you get?" Talk, man. It's okay. It's cool. Everybody's friendly here. You know?
Yeah.
But the kind of going back to the expectations with the first grower is, once they smoke it, all those fears, all that stuff, all those worries, those first time grows go away. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you said the thing about the apology letter. So I am thinking, especially being an impatient person, but I get people who get irritated with me about certain things I do professionally. Like they want quick results. And it's like, it's not that quick, right? So I'm sure you get some of those messages where you've told people you have to be patient. This is, you've given the disclaimer probably multiple times, and they still get nasty with you and then find out that you were right. Does that happen?
Well, people don't usually get nasty. It's a little frustrating. It's stressful. It happens to me. You know what I mean? The biggest thing I let people know is, I know what you see online, because it's the keeping up with the Joneses, right? You see the big pretty bud. Someone said, I grew this in 2.5, 3 months, and that's great. But what did they grow it with? You know what I mean? We've all seen it. I know I like weightlifting, right? So on my Instagram, you see weightlifting stuff and bodybuilding stuff, right? And you see guys that are jacked, and I'm in the gym, and I'm like, damn, why can't I look like that? You don't see where they're taking all these enhancements and supplements and spending all this money on things, and I'm eating chicken and rice. You know what I mean? You don't see that background stuff. So rushing the process isn't going to get really anything done. And what I tell people all the time is an extra 3 to 4 weeks could double your grow if you do it right. Yes, we want quick results, but if I said, I'll give you an ounce today or 2 ounces in a week, the reason most people don't grow is we want that ounce today. You know what I mean?
Like, I'll take the ounce
today. I need that $30 or $40 eighth today.
Yeah.
I can't spend $300.
I think that's probably the thing that keeps people from doing it, from just jumping in with both feet, right?
Yeah. Well, so that, right, that idea that, it's a chunk and what if I waste my money? It's also the false idea that, and it's an internet problem. People like feeling, the more difficult something seems, the more impressive they feel.
Yeah.
This takes so much of my time and this is difficult, and look how smart I am because I can grow this weed, which scares people away. Because the reality is it's a very simple process, and there's multiple ways to grow. You can pick more difficult, more invested options. You can take more budget-friendly options, more hands-off options, things like that. But it feels good to feel smart, and this is why I'm good at. But the reality is it's a lot simpler. The other thing is a lot of people trick themselves into saying, "I don't have time," right? If you brush your teeth and if you watch 3 to 5 minutes of Netflix a day, right? If you have a pet that you feed, you have time to grow weed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because most of the time is taking 3 minutes to water your plants, right? You don't have 400 plants in your house. You don't have a commercial grow setup. You don't need to monitor all those things.
I thought you were saying that I do have a lot of plants.
Cannabis plants.
Yeah.
So a lot of things people are afraid of are just kind of, it's not a legitimate excuse. It's someone told us something and now
there was a lot of gatekeeping early on.
Definitely.
I mean, we talked about it in the last episode, but in the early days of Your Highness podcast, which is our cannabis focused podcast, I interviewed a lot of cultivation experts who would speak in these very scientific terms, and they did have like a smugness. I'm not saying every single person, but there was a lot of gatekeeping about the information, because I would ask questions that I thought were things that just everyday person would want to know. And it was like, I don't want to, I can't break that down. Basically you have to, if you know, kind of a thing. And now I'm seeing an uptick in people like you who are making it more accessible. So to speak to that a little bit, I know you work with a lot of other local people, businesses, to make it more accessible. Can you talk about that a little bit, about how you're trying to work with the community to make it so that people feel empowered?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the big things is just obviously, like you said, trying to eliminate that gatekeeping mentality, right? This community until July 23 was illegal, and rule number 1 is don't tell anybody, right? So it had
Not
to
that
be a
long
secret
ago.
for 50 years for some people, for 30 years, right? There's people I talk to that are like, man, you couldn't talk about this. And I was afraid to talk about this until I met you or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone that came to my store yesterday, right? And we sat there and talked for about an hour and a half. I just met this guy. And he's like, man, ex-military. He's like, yeah, I've been growing. He's like, he walked into my store and looked over his shoulder. And the first 10 minutes in, after that, he's like, man, I was feeling out to see if you were a cop. I was like, why, man? We're not selling. We're not doing anything illegal. But it's just that mentality. So when you have that mentality for you, your brain is just, it's almost a trauma response. Don't talk about this. Nope, you're going to give away too much. They're going to know you were growing for or do this or that or that. Or it's okay, though. You know what I mean? So part of it is getting rid of that stigma that this is an illegal trapper mindset. You know what I mean?
You know, it's funny you say that because I'm just thinking like how I talk to a lot of people like that, you know? And I think that might even be, I know that's a huge roadblock for a lot of people in certain generations where they feel like growing is like, I don't know, akin to them saying they have a problem, right? Like, oh, going to the dispensary, that's different. That's a different thing, you know? Like they compartmentalize it, you know? It's like, I'm just going to get my little gummies or my, you know, my vape pen.
And a lot of people have the idea, because, again, you go online and you see stuff and you get a picture in your head, right? First thing you see when you go online is how much weed do I get from a plant? It's 4 ounces. Your casual smoker...
Like in the whole life cycle just for one batch?
For one plant. So if you have 2 plants, that's 8 ounces, which is a half a pound of weed.
Jesus.
Right? And your casual, I take a couple hits after work smoker, that's more than they smoke in a year. You know what I mean? And it's like, what am I... And in people's heads, I'm going to be El Chapo. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all this? But the reality is that's not the case. Very few people get 4 ounces or more per plant, and it's more dependent on your space. If you're a casual smoker, we're not setting up half your house.
Right.
We're not taking a room out of your house. If you have a shoe rack, that's how much space I need. You know what I mean? We don't need a ton. So, and again, because people only see online the big, most impressive grows in their head, that's what they need. No, man, we can take a closet-sized space and save you a lot of money for a hobby. And then, you create a new healthy hobby, you save money, you have cleaner medicine, you know what I mean? You have a healthier way to smoke.
And you have it, you can do so many things with it, you know, like make topicals and other like hemp shakes and things like that, like with the leaves, they're so good, and smoothies. Like you start to get creative and think like, what else can I do with this?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and again, it becomes fun and it becomes a hobby. And instead of just having flower, now you have the option for an edible or a dab or whatever you want to try. You have those options whenever you want.
And like you said last time, which I thought was a really good point, you can pause it.
Yep, you can stop
again,
at
like
any time
kombucha.
and you have it. Exactly, you just have it for later.
Back to kombucha again. You can pause it if you get overwhelmed with the sheer amount of kombucha. So before we end, let's talk about the events that you have coming up.
So a lot of exciting things. Once March hits and this weather starts warming up, it is like there's football season and then there's cannabis season. And this is cannabis season.
Can't get excited about the former, but you know.
That's, if I find a reason to wake up every day, we got football and weed.
There you go.
I
love that for you. That's what kids say.
We have Frankie's 420 Fest. Now, 420 this year is on Easter, so we're going to do it, get it started a day early.
Thanks for that, by the way. I didn't know that until I saw your post. I was like, oh, all right.
So April 19th, there's a few things going on, and it's at our White Marsh location. So it's 5508 Ebenezer Road. Me and the smoke shop next to me, every 420, they do a big event. Since I moved in there, it is exponentially bigger. We have a cookout, so free hot dogs and hamburgers. We have over 7 different vendors. Some of those are members of the Organic Home Growers Association, which is something I'm going to get to in just a minute. But Smoke Shop has sales. I have the most ridiculous sales. It's basically our Black Friday sale, so everything is discounted 30% or more. If you spend $1 at the smoke shop next to me, you get a free clone. So go buy a pack of rolling papers.
What?
Get a free clone. $25
It's 21 and over, right?
Yes. Yep. So you can end up with 4 clones for $75. The normal price is 2 for $80. Plus you get a bunch of free stuff. You get to meet and hang out with some great people. For that event, there's a home growers contest. And those entries are March 23rd to April 10th. The winner will be announced and given a trophy at the event. There's cash prizes. There's all kinds of cool stuff for that. Second event I'm really excited for is the Organic Home Growers Association May Flowers event. Okay. So this is me and 3 other award-winning growers, and this is a growers-only event. So we vet everybody. Every event, there's going to be over 20 vendors. All are...
Like home growers or like professional?
Some are home growers. Some are in dispensaries. But all with clones and seeds available. And most of these companies are people that don't even sell clones. They're not even available to the public. But they agreed just for this event, because it's a growers-only event, they will sell clones. So things that are never normally available ever to the public, cuts that are only in dispensaries, you can get these stuff at this event. So that's something super excited. If you currently grow or are looking to get started in the next 2 months, DM me on Instagram or call 443-381-2526 to get your tickets, because this is going to sell out quick. Every event gets bigger and better. We had our first one in January, and people still are talking about that. They said it was like a mini Woodstock. It got so smoky in the store, we had to open the doors and air it out.
Wow.
But food trucks will be there, live DJs, raffles, giveaways, some of the most unique genetics in the DMV, some of the best stuff, award-winning genetics will be there. Something you do not want to miss.
Awesome. Well, I hope I don't miss one of them at least. I'm not a home grower yet, so... But thank you again for sharing your knowledge with me today. I really appreciate it. And of course, come back anytime.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it is Frankie, so FRANKIE _.
Yeah, you have to have that underscore. It's hard to find you without that underscore.
The underscore and then Greenthumbs. If you don't type it all the way out, it is a weed page. We're shadow banned. You will not find us.
Yeah.
You'll see the logo. It's my noggin with Frankie Greenthumbs on it. So you can't miss it. If you're watching this, you see what I look like. So you'll see it there. 2 locations, one in Randallstown and one in White Marsh. So yeah, reach out, call. That is my personal number, so text, DM, whatever is easiest. Sometimes you gotta, just gotta...
People in other countries listen to this.
I do virtual training. Let's get this started.
There you go. Hey, I like that attitude. All right. Well, thank you again. And come back again, obviously, anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Your Highness Media. Subscribe to our podcast. Where to subscribe to Your Highness Media?
This podcast has been a product of Your Highness Media. Each episode is written, produced, and edited by Your Highness Media. Thank you for listening.